Okay, I'm gonna give this a try. This is my first cooking video. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I do know how to cook. I just don't know how to video all this. So I have been asked to share some of my recipes now that we are stranded at home and there's less opportunity to go to restaurants, and I thought I'd help bring the art of cooking back to some friends and family. So we're gonna start with one of our family's favorites and go-to items, chicken fajitas. I'm gonna make a single batch here for you today, but usually I will make this in bulk, and it's a really easy meal to put in freezer bags, and then you just pull them from the freezer when you need them, and you have fajitas in 20 minutes. So what we have here for ingredients is I have the Costco frozen chicken breasts, boneless, skinless, and these are individually wrapped, but you can use whatever you want to use. I have a variety of peppers here because I like different types of peppers. If you're just making one batch, you really only need one pepper's worth of peppers, unless you really like peppers. I have a regular yellow onion, a jalapeno because we like it a little spicy, a lime, and some fresh cilantro. And then I'm gonna go with the easy fix tonight and just use a packaged mixed Western Family fajita mix. I also usually make a big batch of fajita seasoning slash taco seasoning that we make using various spices, and I'll share that at a different time. If you are sensitive to migraines or issues with MSG, that's always a good way to go, is to make your own. But this is a good mix. So the first thing I would do is put my chicken breasts on a plate in the microwave and put them on defrost. I only put them in there for about, I don't know, 4 to 5 minutes on the defrost setting, not on cook, but on defrost, because I don't want them to be completely defrosted. They slice nicer when they're still kind of partially frozen, and you can get nice thin slices. So I'm gonna get that started in a moment. I'm gonna move those aside and we'll cut the peppers up. I don't know if you really need to see me cut the peppers, but like I said, I don't know what I'm doing here. So also I use different cutting boards for different things. So when it's my vegetables, I use actually my vegetables, I use the green cutting board most of the time, and or whatever other one I have, and then I save one specifically for meat, just for cleanliness and the ability to bleach my white one out. So when you cut a pepper, we'll start with the yellow one because it's pretty. I cut the tops off, and then I cut down those side membranes down the side. By the way, I'm not saying that any of this is the right way to do it. This is just how I do it. So inside the pepper, you see that white membrane on the side, and this is where the bitter part comes from. And a lot of people think the heat comes from the seeds, but the heat actually comes from the inside of the pepper. I also pop off the top. Always use the top of your pepper. That's a big waste to not use that. So I just cut down the sides. This is my favorite go-to knife, but use the one that you're most comfortable with by size. And so I just cut them into strips. The thinner the strip, the more it will cook, and I guess the softer the pepper will be. If you like them a little crunchy, cook them a little bigger. And then I just kind of cut these in pieces. Again, I'm not trying to win a cooking award show. I'm just trying to feed the family, so I don't really care what they look like. So that's how you do peppers. When you do your onion, oh, by the way, scrub all your produce. Not just with coronavirus and everything we're dealing with right now, but if you think of from the moment that produce is picked to when it is crated, to when it is shipped, to when it goes to the grocery store and they stock it on the shelves, to the people like me who go and check out the produce and then put it back, to you picking it up, putting it on the conveyor belt, to putting it away in your house. Scrub your produce well. There are so many ways that it can be contaminated. Plus, a lot of the things that we get at the store have pesticides and herbicides that are sprayed on them if you're not buying organic. So you want to make sure that you wash that. When it comes to cutting onions, I also wash the outside of my onions, because when you're slicing through, you're taking whatever contaminants are on the outside and pushing them through whatever food you're cutting into. So if you're cutting into a pineapple or a cantaloupe, you really need to scrub the outsides of those or you're contaminating your fruit. So I cut the ends off, and then I cut it down the middle. And I always peel a good layer off. I don't mind losing that top layer, not just the skin, but the top layer, and pull that off. And then again, as thin as you want. If you like them more cooked, do them thinner. If you like them crunchier, do them thicker. Okay, so then you have those and you can spread them out in the pan. So I will move those out of the way. When you cut your jalapeno, so some people are super sensitive to the oils in a jalapeno. Some people like to wear gloves. I thankfully have not had too many issues with it. Kind of go with a smaller knife on this. I cut down the middle, and then I take it in my hand carefully and cut that membrane out. Again, if you want it hotter, leave it in there, I guess. And then I just kind of scrape that off. And then I'll rinse these seeds out into the sink. Be careful though, when you rinse that out, if you're using hot water, sometimes that steam comes up and it'll carry those jalapeno oils up and you'll like start coughing. So you scrape those out. I'm gonna rinse them real quick. That's how you rinse the seeds out. If a few seeds get in your food, no big deal. All right. And then I cut them into long strips. Again, I'm probably doing this all wrong if someone who is a chef looks at this, but it's worked so far for us. So if you like big pieces of pepper, you can cut them in bigger. You know, we just kind of like a little spice in there. I need to sharpen my knives. I need new knives, actually. And you can mince them up. And there's your jalapeno. Alrighty. So I am going to get the chicken starting to defrost, and then I'll show you how I cut that up. Okay, so I very slightly defrosted the chicken, enough that they separate from the bag nice and easy. And then I use scissors and cut those out. And I always have a plate nearby so I can put the plastic bags that sometimes have the chicken juice in them right on there. You have to worry about salmonella from raw chicken, so the less contaminating your cooking surface, the better. Once you use these scissors, you don't want to use them again until you wash them. And so I take that and scoop those in the garbage, and then I bring the plate back so my cut chicken I can put on there. Put my scissors in the sink. Okay, so I mean they're still pretty hard. But what I like about that is you can make nice thin slices, kind of like if you go to Mongolian grills when they have the nice thin slices of meat. When you cut it while it's somewhat frozen, you can do that. And I like the thinner slices. I know when you go to the restaurants, they have the big chunks of the chicken. Totally up to you. I just like cutting this easier. If your chicken is really thick chicken breast, you can turn it over and slice it down the middle. I can't believe I'm making videos. Kind of feel like an idiot, but so like the whole reason I'm doing this, when we were possibly talking about school shutdown, and talking to my students and joking of how I could keep them entertained, the number one thing when I sent a survey up to them is they wanted to learn to cook. And I always kind of tell stories about what I've cooked for the weekend, and so this is happening because of my students. So, hey guys, this whole shutdown thing really blows. Teachers are really sad right now, and believe it or not, so are the kids. Everybody, you know, does a good job complaining all of the time about sulking about going to school, but man, every kid that I've talked to wishes they could be there. So I guess this is a way that we can reach out. Okay, so that's a lot of chicken, as you can see there. So next, in a minute, I am going to show you how to put all this together. All right, here we go. So I've got the green cutting board back. I washed and bleached my knife, but I told you this is my favorite knife, so and I hadn't finished cutting my vegetables yet. So I like using fresh cilantro. I know this is, you either love it or you hate it, but it is like my go-to. My house always has fresh cilantro in lines. So when I get my cilantro, I buy it in big batches, but I take it home and I wash it immediately. And then I trim the edges off down below and I put it in an upright container, filling it with water, so then it doesn't wilt. When you cut the bottom of the stem, just like with flowers, it'll continue to pull that water up through. But if you don't cover it, they will start to wilt. So I put just a plastic bag over it and put it in the fridge and leave it upright, and it lasts for a long time. So with my herbs, I like to cut them when they're kind of twisted and tight, then they don't flatten and bruise. So I kind of twist them up. And I'm making a big batch, so I'm going to cut a lot of this right now. Now, I try not to get too far down on the stems, because then it's kind of that weird woody taste. I don't pull the leaves off the stems. The other thing is you want to cut dry herbs, or they get all like wilty and weird and bruise. So that's why I wash them off, and then I actually take them out on my deck and I kind of whip them around to shake the water off, and then put them in the container of water. But you can see that these are nice and dry and they separate well. The other thing is the lime. I always cut both ends off, because when I put it in my juicer, then juice can come out both ends. I don't know if that's the right way to do it, but that's how we do it. So I split it that way, and I use a juicer that looks like this. And then I flip it so it's upside down, so the small end's on the top, and then when you squish it down, it puts a little more pressure on it. So I'm going to show you how I put freezer bag meals together, and then we'll cook these. But this is the coolest tool. I don't even know, can you see that in that picture? This is the coolest tool. It's got a little rim on the bottom that helps it not slide. And then it's got these extendable dealios there that have clips on them. So you can adjust the size of a bag. So I use these a lot in the end of summer when I'm trying to get meals together. But it holds the bag open. I can't do this very well. It holds the bag open and upright. So then a one-person operation is easier. So I grab a, oh, by the way, I cut up all the peppers. So I have a mixture there, so I'm just gonna grab in there and grab a mixture of onions, throw some cilantro in, I don't know, this bag's kind of high. I don't even know if you can see. Maybe I'll go that way. There we go. And then throw in my chicken, and it's still frozen. It just softened it just enough. So really, that was like 2.5 chicken breasts, and that's enough for, there's 3 of us, 2 16-year-old boys and me. So that usually is enough for us to have a good amount for dinner. And then I take my juicer and I juice that right into the bag. And I'll open it up, and sometimes I'll flip it on its end to squish it the other way. Again, really important you wash it. And usually a half of a lime in a bag is enough. And I put cilantro in there. I move this out of the way. I use avocado oil. Olive oil does weird things to my stomach, so this is what I cook with all the time. Rarely I'll use like a light olive oil, but that's what I like. And then I throw a little oil into the bag. You're gonna ask me how much? I don't know, about that much. And then I open up my seasoning, or I put a few tablespoons of my own seasoning in. And I put that in there. Now, while it's still, before I freeze it, I leave some air in the bag, so then I can shake it around. And then I push the air out. And when you go to defrost this, you can let it marinate as long as you want. And then I grab my Sharpie, which of course the kids took all the Sharpies. All right, there we go. And I just put fajitas. That's what the boys call them, is fajitas. So we have our fajitas on 320. And then I put them in the freezer. And then I just pull them out and defrost them. You can defrost them in the refrigerator like for a day, or you can put them in the microwave under the defrost. But don't ever leave your food on the counter to defrost, because bacteria starts to grow pretty quickly. And then I put them in a hot skillet. My favorite pan ever is this guy right here. It's like a big saute pan, and it has a glass top that goes with it. I don't know. It's like 3 inches deep. And it is my favorite. I cook everything in this pan. So add a little bit at a time if you want really good crispy vegetables. Otherwise, they kind of turn mushy. And I think that's it. I don't even know if I'm going to cook it for you. It's really not that hard to do, but I guess I could show you a finished picture. So those are our favorite go-to items, chicken fajitas, or like the boys like to call them, our fajitas. So there you go. Well, I guess I probably should show you it cooking. But you want it really nice high heat so you get that sizzle. And honestly, it mixes up better from the freezer bag. because the marinade's kind of mixed on it. And I can't hold the pan. I'm holding the camera. When you're cooking chicken, you want to make sure that it reaches at least 165 degrees. Then you know it's safe for consumption. So you can check that with a meat thermometer, or really I cook it to death. When I can break apart these small pieces with the spatula or the tongs, and you can see that it's white meat all the way through, then you're good. So I'll show you what it looks like when you're done. The boys really like to have it with refried beans, so I get just the Food Club or Western Family fat-free refried beans. I add a splash of milk to make them a little creamier, and we serve it with a salad, and we're good to go. And there is your finished product with some non-fat refried beans, a salad, and your fajitas. I usually like to make a cilantro lime vinaigrette, and I'll show you that at a different time, but my go-to is this guy right here. It is Don Pancho from Costco, and if you've had their street tacos before, this is that sauce that's in there, and it's really good. So we top that with a little bit of this, and we call it good. So enjoy.